Imagine a country so visually perfect, it looks like it was designed by a world-class cinematographer. We're talking about emerald green valleys, glacial peaks that pierce the clouds, and air so clean it feels like a luxury product. This is New Zealand, the land of the long white cloud. For decades, it's been the ultimate bucket list destination, a sanctuary of stability in a chaotic world. On paper, it is a utopia. It's consistently ranked as one of the least corrupt, most peaceful, and highest quality places to live on the planet. But there is a massive crack in the postcard. While the world is trying to figure out how to move to New Zealand, the people who actually live there are frantically trying to figure out how to get out. We are witnessing a historic demographic shift. It isn't just a few adventurous backpackers looking for a change of scenery. It is a mass departure of the country's most vital asset, its young, skilled workforce. Every month, thousands of New Zealanders are packing up their homes, saying goodbye to their families, and moving to Australia and beyond. This isn't happening because of a war or a natural disaster. It's happening because, for many, the New Zealand dream has become an economic nightmare. How did one of the wealthiest nations on Earth become a place its own citizens can no longer afford to live in? To understand the exodus, we have to look past the mountains and into the brutal reality of what it actually costs to live in paradise. But before we proceed, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next video. The isolation tax. The first thing you have to understand about New Zealand is its geographic tax. In a globalized world, proximity is power. If you're in Belgium, you have the entire European market at your doorstep. If you're in Mexico, you share a border with the world's largest economy. But New Zealand? It's arguably the most isolated developed nation on the map. This isolation creates what economists call the tyranny of distance. Because New Zealand is tucked away in the bottom corner of the South Pacific, everything, from the fuel in the cars to the glass in the windows, has to be shipped across vast oceans. This makes the cost of doing business inherently higher than almost anywhere else. But it's not just about shipping costs, it's about the scale problem. New Zealand has a population of about 5.3 million. That sounds like a decent number until you realize that's roughly the same size as a single mid-sized American state like South Carolina. When your entire national market is that small, you lack critical mass. Industries that require huge investments, like aerospace, high-end tech manufacturing, or pharmaceutical research, struggle to exist there because the domestic market is too small to support them. For an ambitious young Kiwi, this creates a career ceiling. You can be the most talented software engineer or financial analyst in Auckland, but because the market is so tiny, there are only a handful of top-tier jobs. Once you hit that ceiling, there's nowhere left to go but out. The economy of cows and castles. While other developed nations have diversified into the digital economy, New Zealand remains heavily tethered to its roots. The economy essentially rests on two pillars: the things they grow and the things they build reality. New Zealand is a global titan in the dairy and meat industries. Their grass-fed products are world-renowned, and they've mastered the art of off-season exports to the Northern Hemisphere. When it's snowing in Germany, New Zealand's cows are producing milk. It's a brilliant biological advantage. However, modern agriculture is no longer a mass employer. It's high-tech, automated, and run by lean teams using expensive machinery. It generates massive wealth for the country, but it doesn't create office jobs for the thousands of graduates coming out of universities every year. This leaves the second pillar, the property market. In New Zealand, real estate isn't just a sector, it's a national obsession. For decades, the primary way for a New Zealander to build wealth wasn't through the stock market or starting a business, it was through buying a house. This has created a housing bubble that refuses to pop. Because the country lacks a diverse range of investment options, everyone poured their money into bricks and mortar. This drove prices to astronomical levels. Today, the ratio of house prices to median income in cities like Auckland is among the highest in the world. We're talking about fixer upper homes in the suburbs costing over $1 million. For the older generation who bought in the 90s, this is great. they're sitting on a gold mine. But for a 25-year-old starting their career, it's a barricade. They are looking at a lifetime of rent traps with no realistic hope of ever owning a piece of the land they call home. When your own country tells you that you'll never own a home, the lure of the exit sign becomes irresistible. The Australian magnet. Now, if New Zealand was in the middle of the Atlantic, people might just stay and suffer. But it isn't. It sits right next to Australia, the big brother of the Pacific. Australia is essentially the upgraded version of the Kiwi lifestyle. It offers the same climate, the same language, and the same cultural values. But because Australia has a massive mining sector and a population 5 times larger, it has something New Zealand doesn't: cold, hard cash. The wage gap between the two countries is startling. In sectors like nursing, construction, policing, and teaching, a New Zealander can often move to Australia and see an immediate $20,000 to $30,000 increase in their annual salary. On top of that, the cost of groceries and utilities in Australia is often lower because of better supply chains and more competition. The decision to move isn't a betrayal of New Zealand. It's a simple math problem. If you can do the same job in a similar climate, but actually save money at the end of the month and eventually buy a house, why wouldn't you go? What makes this even more dangerous for New Zealand is how easy it is to leave. Under the Trans-Tasman travel arrangement, Kiwis can live and work in Australia indefinitely with almost no paperwork. There are no visa hurdles, no language tests, and no cultural barriers. This frictionless migration means that as soon as the economic pressure in New Zealand hits a certain point, the relief valve of Australia opens up and the talent pours out. The brain drain cycle. This leads to a phenomenon known as the first world brain drain. Usually when we talk about brain drain, we think of doctors leaving developing nations for the West. But New Zealand is already the West. It's an educated, wealthy society losing its people to an even wealthier neighbor. The government tries to plug these holes with immigration. They bring in workers from overseas to keep the hospitals running and the houses being built. But here's the irony. Many of those immigrants eventually realize the same thing the locals did. They use New Zealand as a stepping stone, a place to get a Western passport and some experience before eventually making the jump to Australia themselves. New Zealand is essentially training a workforce for Australia to hire. Meanwhile, a different kind of person is moving into New Zealand. These aren't the young builders of the future. They are the global elite. High net worth individuals from the US and Europe see New Zealand as a safety bunker. They buy up massive estates in the South Island, intending to use them as vacation homes or doomsday retreats. While these people bring capital, they don't necessarily build a sustainable, everyday economy. They drive up prices for locals without providing the long-term productivity the country needs. Is paradise sustainable? So, where does this leave New Zealand? The country isn't broken in the traditional sense. If you walk through the streets of Wellington or Christchurch, everything looks fine. The gardens are manicured, the coffee is great, and the society is functional. But underneath the surface, the country is hollowing out. A nation cannot survive purely on scenery and tourism. It needs a vibrant, ambitious middle class that feels they have a stake in the future. When the best and brightest decide that their future lies 1,300 miles away in Sydney or Brisbane, the home country loses its momentum. It stops being a place of innovation and starts becoming a boutique destination, a beautiful, expensive museum that is wonderful to visit but impossible to live in. New Zealand is currently at a crossroads. It has to decide if it wants to be a living, breathing economy that supports its youth, or if it is content becoming a luxury retirement village for the world's wealthy. You can't build a future on vibes and views alone. You need to give the next generation a reason to stay. And right now, the Australia button is just too easy to press. What do you think? Can a small, isolated nation like New Zealand ever truly compete with global giants? Or is the big brother pull of Australia simply too strong to overcome? If you were a young Kiwi facing a $1 million mortgage for a starter home, would you stay for the scenery? Or would you board that flight to Melbourne? If you found this breakdown of the Kiwi exodus insightful, make sure to give us a like and hit that subscribe button. We're diving into the hidden economic forces shaping the world every single week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.